20, so you can be turning over there. But before, as we look into that, as we think about that, I want to ask you a question. What is fair? That's a fair question. That's good. What is fair? Do you remember those arguments with most of y'all have siblings, some of y'all are only children. If you're an only child, you missed this wonderful part of life. Okay? This part of life where you have to figure out what is fair, right? Maybe it's food portions, like, hey, that's not fair. They got this, I didn't. Maybe it's Christmas presents. Maybe it could be punishments that got doled out. Like, that's not fair. He got in more trouble than I did, or whatever, right? I'm pretty sure I was the one in my family, my mom's probably watching, I was the one who got punished more than anybody else. So it wasn't fair. Like, I was the one who was on the bad end of the fair in my family. Probably rightly so. I probably deserved it. Anyway, but we have this whole sense of fairness, right? What's fair? I mean, how many times have you heard that conversation if you're an adult? How many times have you heard your kids talk about what's fair? Like, that's fair, that's not fair, all this kind of stuff. We as a people really are concerned about fairness. And it's kind of gets nurtured in us, I think, very early on, right? We are, I believe, surrounded by a lack of fairness. Aren't we? We use the word justice, but I didn't want to trigger anybody with that word. Fairness is another way to say it. But we're surrounded by injustice. We're surrounded by unfairness in the world around us, in our own world. We perhaps feel that sometimes ourselves, right? The world in which Jesus lived wasn't fair either. First century Palestine, if you think about Jesus, the Jews and Jesus' people, they lived under occupation, a dictatorship. People that weren't even their own were running their country. 50% of the wealth resided in 1% of the population in Jesus' day. What does that mean? That means that most people were poor. Most people were in need. 70%, as the numbers go, were poor laborers struggling, kind of use our terminology, paycheck to paycheck. Even today in the United States, last numbers I saw, these may be old by now, but 49 million people live below the poverty line. Worldwide, 1.3 billion people live on less than $1 a day. There's needs around us, and the world's not fair. I mean, why do we get to sit in this nice warm auditorium, driving our nice cars, living in our nice homes, whatever nice means to you? What did you do to deserve that? And sometimes I think in our sort of twisted thinking and as human beings, we think we somehow deserve what we have. Like, oh yeah, well I worked hard, or I did this. And those people didn't work hard, and that's why they don't have what they have, and that's why I have what I have. We kind of make this whole thing about, well, I deserve it, and they don't, and whatever, and what they do wrong, and we'll come to that here in a minute. And it becomes this fairness conversation, right? And I think that Jesus challenges us hardcore with this in Matthew chapter 20. Let's read this parable. This parable stings every time I read it. It says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And going out about the third hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace and said to them, 'You go to the vineyard too, and whatever is right I will give you.' So they went. Going out again about the 6th hour and the 9th hour, he did the same. And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing. He said, 'Why do you stand here idle all day?' They said to him, 'Because no one has hired us.' He said to them, 'You go into the vineyards too.' When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, 'Call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last up to the first.' And when those hired about the 11th hour came, each of them received a denarius. Now when those hired first came, they thought, 'Oh, we're going to receive more.' But each of them also received a denarius. And on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house, saying, 'These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat.' But he replied to one of them, 'Friend, am I doing you no wrong? Do you not agree with me? Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what belongs to you and go. I chose to give this to the last worker as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or do you begrudge my generosity? So the last will be first, and the first last.